Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do a little bit of a combination, whether it be a video blog or vinyl update, vinyl collection update, and stuff like that. So, I'll do the vinyl and collection update. This in the way. Yeah, I want to just kind of go first with the stuff that I got first. So the thing I ordered, I don't remember when it was, late last year. I guess I must have seen some ad. This is the Capital Cities debut album. Tidal Wave of Mystery, which was the 10th anniversary in 2023, so the gatefold. My wife has a copy, I think she was like kind of envious, but I got the CD, I bought her the vinyl, I think I did, at the concert we saw in like 2013 or 2014 with Fitz and the Tantrum, the first time we saw them, but, so I waited and finally got this colored. They're supposed to be coming out with another record, the first record in like, 6 years this year, but I haven't had the updates on that with Spencer, like featuring Spencer. There's been songs, but yeah, this is a great record. And I mean, it got known for one song especially. It got put on like, car commercials and stuff like that, Safe and Sound. But it's Sibu Simonian, who I had previously known from the band, did Goodbye Beautiful Day, Aviatic. But that was more like U2-ish kind of stuff. This is more dance pop rock with some good instrumentation, a lot of trumpet, so it's featured. But I love Kangaroo Court. It's probably my Kangaroo Court, Farrah Fawcett Hair, featuring Andre 3000. Those two are just bangers. But every track on here is good, though. It's even Safe and Sound, which is the opening track, which again kind of got, it's like their mall pop song. But yeah, I mean, I love the record that came out after that, which didn't get as much appreciation. But yeah, it's great to finally have a copy of Tidal Wave of Mystery, Tidal Wave of Mystery by Capital Cities, the debut album from 2013. So let me just do the vinyl. So then I went to Agartha. I was given a gift certificate, Agartha Records, from my aunt for a Hanukkah gift. We did Hanukkah late this year, so I didn't get it until recently. Relatively recently, didn't have that option, but so I haven't even used it all. But I just bought a couple things the other day there, and I showed this on the 1984 video yesterday. Was it yesterday or whatever, over the weekend? The Footloose soundtrack, which I mentioned in that video, has like several really just kind of standard 80s pop songs. Among all the soundtracks that Kenny Loggins, of course, got known for the title track. Kenny Loggins got known for Danger Zone off, I think it's Beverly Hills Cop 2, but later. But push comes to shove, still I think even I'm Alright. I think Footloose, the title track, is maybe his most well known. But I got this for $5. It was in the. I don't go back to the five and the bargain area nearly enough, but it's a lot of crate digging at Agartha. But there's stuff that I'm looking for, a lot of standard stuff that's not that hard to find. Actually, this wasn't even back there. My bad. The next record I'm going to show was, but I need to do that more often there, just because, it's great to buy the new copies and stuff like that, or rare stuff. But oftentimes I'm looking for stuff that I just need to complete my collection with. It would be more affordable to get it, even like a second or third pressing. But yeah, this has the title track and I'm Free from Heaven Helps the Man from Kenny Loggins. And it has Let's Hear It for the Boy from Denise Williams, and Holding Out for a Hero from Bonnie Tyler. And then Almost Paradise, which is the love theme from... It's a duet between Mike Reno and Ann Wilson, but written by Eric Carmen and Dean Pitchford. R.I.P. Eric Carmen. But yeah, it's Carla Bonoff's on here on one track. Sammy Hagar, the girl Gets Around. Never, performed by a band called Moving Picture. That's Dean Pitchford. So yeah, really good. I mean, I don't collect a lot of soundtracks. There's specific ones I have sentimental value, but I was just going through the 1984 list, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of songs on this one that I know. And so it's like, if I could find a copy, I would. This was a little pricier, but the movie itself, of course, Kevin Bacon and I think it's John Lithgow. It's okay. It's one of Kevin Bacon's most signature roles, one of his first roles he got known for, and he was in like Animal House and everything. So the last one I got the other day at Agartha was Joe Jackson's Night and Day from, this is 82. I just fell in love with this record a few weeks ago when I was doing the 82 list, because I've known, of course, Steppin' Out. Really, I've been a big fan of that track for about, you could say about 7 or 8 years. I probably heard it long before that. I knew the name Joe Jackson, but I mean, it's a terrific pop song. But this is a gatefold. It wasn't his debut, of course. I've got his debut over there on a 10-inch gatefold. What is it? Look Sharp. But, it is fantastic. But beyond that, oh man, that song Target is unbelievably good. Like there's a lot of cool Afro-Cuban jazz and like piano pop rock. Some of it's very progressive on this, and it's really kind of emphasizing that I slept on Joe Jackson and I want to hear more and more. And he's actually coming here. I was going to mention that he's coming here. Chinatown's really good. Another World, TV Age. He co-wrote that song from, was it Suzanne Vega that I really like? I forget the name of it. It's from it wasn't Tom's Diner, but, so he's just, and he's good. He's a really good songwriter, Joe Jackson, and he's progressive, British guy. He lived in New York City for a while and then he left, but, that's when he wrote this. I think he was like sort of in love, but then recorded in New York City, fallen out of love. But there's such a romantic element to that song, Stepping Out, in this album, Night and Day. So, I think I'm still gonna be in a Joe Jackson exploration. I may not get into everything he does, but I'm definitely happy I got this, and I'm really excited to continue to explore more of his catalog. He had an album from '84 I haven't even heard yet, so I did a couple CDs I'll show in a minute. I can talk about it. And actually, this is all at the same show. So, following up on the Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum review I did last week, which apparently a couple people didn't exactly appreciate everything I said, but I wasn't being negative. I was just being honest. Whatever. I'm not going to address that, but I was given this poster when I was at Agartha the other day. That was, kind of a cool poster, and then this, like a tour card, which they're still on tour. And I don't know if this will be the last tour, hopefully not, but cool to have. I have a lot of posters. I did 1 or 2 videos about them. It's like a lot of them are in the best shape. I'd like to preserve them, and if I had the room someday, I would do a big poster wall or ceiling or walls. If we had the room, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. And then I have the 2 CDs, and then I'm going to get into a TV series, a miniseries review, but I showed this during the review, both these. The Kind City, their new album, which is on CDR, but they're going to maybe officially press it on CD soon. This is Marshall Bolan, not a member of Bubble Math, but he's friends with the Bubble Math guys. He's collaborated with some of them, but it also includes, I think, the services of Blake Albinson, who is a guitarist for Bubble Math, but live at the show with Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum last week, he played drums. And some other people, they've all these different signatures, got 4 signatures on here. And I've listened to it a couple times now. I'm liking a lot of it. I mean, it's art rock. You could say quirky art rock. Some lyrics are kind of controversial, and I got someone hovering around, of course, near my house right now. It's I don't say surprisingly, but maybe somewhat unexpectedly, because I didn't know Marshall. I guess he'd been working on this album since 2015. Those 2 songs I mentioned in the review, The Offset and The Plane Crash, are the best, but the song Corpse is super catchy too. There's some good trumpet or trombone. Reach That Height, Salty. It's talking about an iodine. High, like an iodine. It reminds me of like a Syd Barrett thing almost. But this is good. The Kind City, the album's called This, and hopefully it's coming out officially soon. It'll be maybe on Bandcamp or on Spotify, but CD may be available, so maybe vinyl, I don't know. But among local music recently, and when it kind of got me thinking about the progressive rock stuff in Minnesota. So I picked up the Run at the Dog album, Skutagera. I don't think I have this. I might, but it has Marshall, I believe. I think he's in it, but Jenny Case, she's the one on the would be on the left there, I guess, or whatever on the side there. And some other musicians I used to see at EP Atelier play live. Kai Esmondson from Bubble Mass mentioned in here, and Bubble Mass. So, I mean, there's a lot of connections between them. Brooke, that's who, Brooke Murphy, well, she was mentioned. I remember we used to go, my friend and I used to see them at, not necessarily Run With the Dog specifically, but a lot of these musicians play live. I don't know if they were under a different name. At EP Atelier, I saw them maybe 4 or 5 times within about a 12-month or 15-month period back in like 2008, 2009. But I haven't listened to this album in a long time. I've listened to it online. When I do that Minnesota prog list, hopefully soon, maybe I got to revisit this just to see if it will make. I don't know if it will make the list. I should just show as many as I can. I don't know. It'll be a long video. So, on to the review. So, or a couple more things. William Shatner's got a documentary that's coming out. William Shatner, of course, of Star Trek and Boston Legal, T.J. Hooker, you name it, Rescue 911. Famous Shatner. There's a documentary called "You Could Call Me Bill," I believe. It's premiering Wednesday officially. It's going to be in Indiana or something like that because there's an eclipse. Maybe that's when the eclipse. Anyway, but then it's going to be at some theaters this weekend. So I'm going to try to go to that tomorrow night. Today's Tuesday. And what was the other movie announcement? There was something else. There was one other. But there's concerts like the John Anderson with Band Geeks and the Return of Allison, like when Palmer's playing this summer. I want to see if I can get a ticket for that. Joe Jackson is coming. I'm thinking about going to that. Tickets aren't exactly cheap. There's a psych convention which I was thinking about going to. It's going to be in Schaumburg, Illinois in June. The cost, considering the cost, I think I'm going to pass, unfortunately, on that. We may end up taking a trip out to Seattle or something in the fall for an anniversary, but, and there was one or two other concert tours that I'm not even remembering right now, but, I have concerts coming up where I have the guy from, Raul Malo from the Mavericks is coming to Dakota next month, who's live, the comedy troupe is coming in May, I'm going to go see, and then, Chromeo, which they're excellent new record. It's on BTS's pop banger with like prog elements with violin. We got tickets for that in October, my wife and I. But yeah, I mean, there's some other stuff that I'm not even thinking of right now. But that's a lot of the stuff that's come up. But so to review this, to transition and to review this mini series, you know, there's another TV going on, the Kate Winslet show. I want to check out the Regime, I think it is, but. My wife and I just finally, she wanted to see this, and we watched it last night. It's like a 4-episode thing on, I guess it was on Discovery, one of the Discovery networks, Discovery Kids, maybe Discovery, but also, it's not for kids, though, at all, I would say, in a lot of ways. But it's also on the Max, HBO's streaming service, called Quiet on the Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. And it's about, well, like almost 100% about Nickelodeon and about Dan Schneider. And Dan Schneider, I mostly know him for 2 things. Head of the Class, most people know him for that. And then he was Ricky in Better Off Dead. He was also in a movie with Kevin Bacon. I was talking about him earlier, called like The Big Picture, which he had just a bit part in that, but that was in the early 90s, probably right before he got involved with Nickelodeon and everything like that. And I think it was The Big Picture, where Kevin Bacon's like a filmmaker, like a struggling filmmaker, and yeah, it was like, yep. And he was just like in 2 or 3 scenes. I was like, oh, that's the dude from Head of the Class. And that was actually in '89, so. I mean, he's done some other stuff I probably saw, whatever. But, I never watched Nickelodeon. Didn't have cable. I didn't really watch Nickelodeon. But I heard about some of the Rufflins. I knew some of the shows, of course. Amanda Bynes, and I knew Truth or whatever, Double Dare, which I could be wrong, but I thought it eventually got picked up and was run in syndication. Because I remember watching that show. But I don't remember watching it necessarily on Nickelodeon. The one thing I watched on Nickelodeon was Nick at Night, which the Monkees were on there back in the 80s. But my family didn't have cable, so it was like when we were like over at my grandmother's over spring break or whatever. But It makes. I knew there were a kind of a kids network, sort of a. I don't know if Disney Network is even around, sort of, but at some point they became a rival. They were rivals with Disney. But what this documentary series really is about is a lot of the dark activities that kind of got didn't really get discussed, exposed. A lot of things happen with child actors, and they're basically they spent a lot of time at this because I'm sure that ever since a lot of this stuff happened with a lot of the rumors, stories, tabloid stuff with the different Nickelodeon shows and the kids' experience, child actors' experiences, that kind of got talked about in, like I said, tabloids or just gossipy kind of stuff. I'm sure, and then when stuff with Dan Schneider got worse and worse, even before Me Too, and then when Me Too started, as the documentary kind of talked about, they had the intention of let's do some investigations and let's try to put this together and tell the real story. Sort of like a Dateline NBC, 48 Hours, 2020 kind of thing, really. But of course, with a little more freedom to put it on like a streaming service like this or like this whatever cable, there's a little more they could do. I'll say, it was definitely eye-opening. Some of the stories is pretty traumatic, what some of those kids went through. A couple of the people, it wasn't just Dan Schneider, it was one of the, voice or dialogue coaches, and this other guy who was like a production assistant, also had a lot of transgression. The way they treated a lot of the female staff with fair pay and just very inappropriate kind of stuff that didn't get really exposed, and then just showing the way it was depicted, showing a lot of the stuff from Nickelodeon that I was way too old to watch as just the demographic, and even just I didn't have any reason to watch it, but my wife did because she watched over a lot of some her cousins who were younger, so they watched a lot of those shows, Drake and Belle or Drake and Josh, is it? Yeah, Drake and Josh, and iCarly, the Amanda Show, all that or something like that. Shows I never saw. I just seen the documentary. I'd heard of a lot of these shows. I knew some of the others, like I said, Truth or Dare or Double Dare, and some of the animated shows like Ren and Stimpy. We watched a documentary a few years ago that Adam F. Goldberg did called The Orange Years, which was more just purely about the programs they had on there, which, according to her, again, I hadn't watched a lot of that stuff. I'd seen a little bit of Ren and Stimpy, but, she said it was kind of disappointing. It was not as thorough as she would have liked, but, a lot of the actors, the women, some of the writers, and a lot of the kid actors just went through a lot of stuff that's like creepy behavior. And you heard the story about some of that stuff, even like that episode of Different Strokes, of course, which was renowned for, the guy Gordon, whatever his name is, from WKRP showed up, and I don't mind watching documentaries just to see the truth, even if it wasn't super graphic, but they got a lot of good interviews, although they didn't get too many big names. They didn't have like Miranda Cosgrove or Amanda Bynes, of course, or they didn't have, obviously, Dan Schneider. The other guy is Brian Robbins, who had been on Head of the Class with him. He wasn't interviewed. He went on. He moved on at some point and stopped working for Nickelodeon. He's working for Paramount. But Drake Bell, he probably was who played played Drake and Josh. It was Drake from Drake and Josh, the buddy comedy in the mid 2000s or whatever. His story was the most thorough, and it was pretty dark to hearing what he went through with this dialogue coach that was there, that basically split his relationship between him and his dad and all this stuff. He looked kind of familiar. It's interesting, though, the other guy, Josh, I totally recognized from The Big Bang Theory, but he had surgery or something. He was a little heavier as a teenager, but it's like that's the same guy who played that's Josh Peck. But they didn't interview him. They didn't, it's a lot more. They obviously Ariana Grande was on Nickelodeon, so was they didn't even mention her. The girl from what's Roberts? Um, Julia Roberts' niece. She was also on at one point. Like Jamie Lynn Spears, and she was on, but they didn't interview all those people. But they had people like reporters, and then people that were worked there, and then some of the more, I guess you could say, less successful, or people that were on some of those shows that eventually got out. It was doesn't sound like it. That whole thing about Hollywood, and it's not what it's all cut out to be, and there's a lot of pressure, especially for kids working, and kids have to have their parent on set. But I mean, if you ever watched Nickelodeon in the 90s and 2000s, maybe even 2010s to an extent, and you are okay with kind of hearing about something of your youth that that you might have fondness towards, if it won't affect you, if you can separate art from artists to some degree, or events from artists, then it's well done. I mean, like I said, they probably had to spend a lot of time at it. The downfall of Dan Schneider especially, they did have a lot of like disclaimers, and Dan Schneider obviously was probably approached multiple times to be interviewed for this thing, and he probably declined that, but he said, I want you to at least, I'll agree to, you can use a lot of this footage of me, and I won't do anything legally with this, but I want this message in here, because there were like 4 or 5 different messages saying that some of the way it's depicted in this isn't necessarily fully accurate, but again, I'm sort of way on the peripheral on my motivations, but I found it interesting and it's compelling. There was a thing with, was it not Schneider, was the guy who ended up getting involved with Drake Bell, that he ended up going to prison, and then there were a bunch of Hollywood people that wrote letters on his behalf, but then they were sort of they weren't given all the context. Some of them had like backed off, like Joanna Kearns from Growing Pains, and there's some people in there. I was a little surprised, but then I was kind of like, well, maybe they had a good relationship with this guy. I should probably get his name right. He was a voice or a dialogue coach for many years, like before Nickelodeon. He'd been Nickelodeon shows. He had been involved with Growing Pains. I don't know. I was telling my wife that not Brian Peck. He was one of the. I don't think there's any relationship to him. Who's the other one? Because there were 3. They're saying it was Brian Peck. Maybe it was Brian Peck. That's weird. Yeah, maybe it was Brian. I'm thinking of Brian Peck, which is weird because I thought maybe it was no relation, because that show Drake and Josh, the stars were Drake Bell and Josh Peck. Maybe there was no relation. That's kind of ironic. I didn't even realize that. And Drake, I get Drake Bell's a musician and stuff like that, but he was not. He was struggling to talk in some of this. Where was it? Drake and Josh. So that's interesting. It didn't even occur to me. The last name. Yes, the last name Peck is a common name, but that's just ironic. But yeah, he ended up going to prison. All these like people, like, and I guess at the trial or whatever, or at the hearing, he actually didn't. It wasn't a trial, because he pleaded no contest. Brian Peck. All these people were kind of on his behalf, but I don't know. I mean, you take everything with a bit of a grain of salt with this stuff, and you really care about this. I mean, again, if this was like actors or athletes, musicians, that I have a stronger connection with. I mean, Chevy Chase, I still love a lot of his work, but I know as a person, he's kind of burned a lot of bridges, and I don't really look as favorably upon him now. But yeah, if you're someone who grew up with Nickelodeon, it would be worth watching if you are okay with understanding that your mindset about these people you watched, these kids specifically, not the kids as people, but what the kids went through, and some of the people that made it. And Dan Schneider, because he was like given a Lifetime Achievement Award at like this award show like the Kids Choice Awards in 2014. I mean, he was, yeah, I mean, he obviously was a very successful, almost iconic in within this particular part of the Hollywood and entertainment industry for like 20 years. But you know, I mean, all the Me Too stuff, they talk about that, you know, and the people that were so have been that their careers are basically over because of this stuff, which is too bad. But it's at least you want to believe there's some level of justice, and you'd hope that Nickelodeon survived this point, and you'd hope that this kind of thing can really be prevented. But I don't know. I mean, it's. I was just telling him I thought that it's like it wasn't just Dan Schneider; it was these other two, and there might be others that. It's almost like they had like some sort of curse on them. It was like they paid the price. They were successful, and he built this little empire. But at what cost? It was like there was a catch to the whole thing. But anyway, I think that's about it. I'm gonna get back to sort of the regular stuff, Kevin Gilbert stuff. I got 3 more plus the extras, and then 1985. I'm already starting to work on a bit, and those other lists I talked about. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.